Welcome to Season 2 of the Making Bank podcast, where we continue our exploration of South Florida's entrepreneurial landscape with host Keith Costello, co-founder and CEO of Locality Bank. Sit back, relax, and let South Florida visionaries guide you on an entrepreneurial journey from tribulation to triumph, sharing the very stories that have shaped them.
Blake Janover, welcome to Locality Bank's Making Bank podcast.
It's an honor, Keith. You're such a star.
Well, we're really happy you're here, because I'm a fan of yours. I've been following what you've been doing. It's very interesting to me because as a bank, we have promoted ourselves as a technology bank and a user of technology. And so it's really a pleasure to have somebody on who's in the forefront of doing things in fintech and doing things that are very interesting and new things and, blazing a trail. So we'll get right into it. So we usually start right off just by talking about where you're from and kind of your family, because what we've found in talking to a lot of entrepreneurs is that that's where they kind of begin their entrepreneurial stage is early in life. So tell us about your upbringing, where you grew up and all of that.
Sure. I'll try not to meander too much, and maybe I can give it to you in the context of being an entrepreneur. So I grew up actually backtracking, very excited to be in a conversation with somebody that's trailblazing and building technology in a sector that needs it desperately. I believe in locality as a person, and we've spoken before, and I've enjoyed all of our conversations thoroughly. So hopefully I don't let you down here, or any of you.
You're killing it already. You just raised the bar quite a bit.
It's all downhill from here, sir. So I grew up in Jericho, New York, very, ovarian lottery in the capacity that my mother, was the most wonderful lady in the world. My father was pretty good too. Hi, Dad. We grew up as entrepreneurs. I think it's just kind of culturally it was there. My father, his whole family is from Israel. We came very, very early when it was the Ottoman Empire, started businesses, founded villages, and that kind of carried through. And my father was an entrepreneur also. There's an interesting story there. And my mother's father was also a very successful entrepreneur. But there were these very big ups and downs in their journeys. So I grew up in Long Island. I moved down to Florida in the late 90s.
Any early businesses that you got involved in, jobs and stuff like that?
Of course.
Yeah. Just give us one example of that.
So stay on top of me. Don't let me, because I'll go places.
We're watching you.
Okay. Yeah. Hold me accountable. So this will be cheesy, but this is actually what got me into college, because I had a big blip from high school, maybe behaviorally or otherwise. I got sent away, whatever. Okay. So I remember this was in my college essay. I was very, very young, and I was in a big gated community, and kids would have lemonade stands. But I ran the most successful lemonade shop, So the way we did this is my sister's 5 years younger than me. I dressed her up, put her in a dress, gave her a big sign, sat right at the front gate of the community. And, we were the first one that people saw. We had we had our model, she was a little 4-year-old in the middle of the street back then, is what it is. So
you destroyed the competition.
Yeah, wrecked them. I consolidated the snow shoveling industry. There were a bunch of independent snow shovelers. I got them all together, took a vig on everything, did all the marketing. It was always there. My whole life. That's how I was raised. So, yeah.
Interesting.
That's the answer to that question.
Okay.
I came down here in the 90s, late 90s. There was a lot of back and forth. I was
get into the back and forth. What'd you do when you first came down here?
Well, I was in high school.
Oh, okay. You moved here with your family.
Yeah. So, gotcha. So as an adult, I started my first business. I was working at a small fund, writing. I had gotten kicked out of college, or I'm not sure. It depends on it depends on the glasses through which you look at this. I left.
Yeah. You either got kicked out or you left.
Yeah,
Either way.
something happened where I stopped going to college, and it wasn't entirely voluntarily. And I went and I worked at a small fund. I was writing trading algorithms, so I was like a quant. So I was writing their trading strategies. This was a lot of fun.
And this was in
Boca Raton.
Oh, in Boca.
Yeah, in I suppose the very early 2000s.
Okay.
And I was invited to, one of my friends was doing some marketing for mortgages, and it was really interesting. So I helped him sell some leads, and it made a bunch of money. And I was like, wow, like, let me figure out what a mortgage is. And I went to go work at a mortgage company. And this kind of escalated very quickly. So it was during the boom in the last cycle. So again, early 2000s, I suppose, like 2003, 2004, I went to go work at a mortgage company. I became the most successful sales guy. I started to run the branch. I left. I started my own. My father gave me this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I remember sitting on the floor of my apartment. I'm like 20 years old or 19 or something like this. And I decided to start my business, and I have yellow pages, and I'm cold calling banks. And I'm saying, hi, my name's Blake. I'm 19 years old. I'm going to get my mortgage broker's license. I want to open a branch of your bank out of my apartment. And I made a lot of calls and got a lot of laughs. But one guy had a mortgage bank, and we went and we grabbed coffee at Starbucks. And I was like, look, we're going to do $1 million in revenue this year. After we do $1 million of revenue, I'm going to spin off. I'm going to get my own license. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And he's like, yeah, all right, let's go. And we went and we did it. And built, started with a residential mortgage brokerage, and then commercial, and then real estate brokerage, title. And we became a lender. And I thought I was the smartest guy in the world, but really I was, riding a wave.
And that was a wave.
That was a wave. So
a big wave.
I was on the right side of it, and then I was on the wrong side of it. And that ended in a bankruptcy as a young man. And that was a pretty tough time.
So that was the business that you had. That was that mortgage business.
Yeah.
I took it. Is that the business you took offshore as well? Or no? That's so okay.
I'll take you offshore.
Okay.
Let's journey over the Caribbean. So that company was tough. I hired all my best friends, and we all had a really we had a great time together. Worked our asses off, butts off. But
that's okay.
Okay.
If anything gets too bad, Ryan will cut it out.
Okay. I don't want to curse in your, you seem like,
it's totally
okay. All right.
I'm fine with it.
Well, don't encourage me, because I'll just go off the rails.
Just be you, Blake. That's it.
You deserve better than that. So I ended up, an old friend started a company in consumer finance. I went down to the Caribbean, to the Dominican Republic. Actually bought me a one-way ticket. This story is very long. I'm going to give like an abridged version. I ended up building and operating one of the biggest call centers in the Americas. I was like 26, 27 years old at the time. I ended up employing more than 1,000 people in aggregate. There were a lot of ups and downs there. I had some lose everything moments again, which was very discouraging. I built a nutraceuticals company, which was totally random, like vitamins and supplements.
Yeah.
We had manufacturing all over the world, distribution all over the world, distribution centers in like multiple continents. We had everything was in English, Chinese, Italian, French, Spanish. We had teams in all these different languages launching products in different countries. The coolest thing there was we built this amazing software engineering team that built a Stripe-like platform before Stripe was a thing.
Really?
For recurring revenue, for predictive analytics, for understanding consumer spending behavior, and optimizing for how much we could charge, when we could charge, and using that for pricing strategies. That was a lot of fun. I sold that later, but not at the peak. That I think that company. Don't quote me on this. I say don't quote me on this. I'm literally being quoted on this. But I think all these businesses up until this point were super bootstrapped. I never raised any outside capital. We definitely had debt. We were always over levered operationally, right? So I was always operating as if whatever our best month was going to be our new minimum. This is something that somebody that's 20, arrogant, and has a lot of testosterone, believes. Also, there's this, I remember being told as a kid that like the measure of a man isn't how he operates when times are well, it's how he operates when his back is against the wall. And I think as subconsciously as a young man, I manufactured a lot of back against the wall time that I didn't really need. Anyway, I don't need to get into, I don't need to make this a therapy session.
But I mean, that's interesting because I think, that's true. I mean, that is what teaches you lessons. That is how you learn. When you go through those tough times and you survive, you either survive or you don't, right? Yeah. And sometimes you don't and you come back and, but that's how you learn and that's how you grow. So all of those experiences, I'm sure, have gotten you to where you are now.
In front of Keith Costello at Locality Bank, exactly. The most innovative fintech bank in Florida. The world?
The world.
Love it.
Yeah. The universe.
Yeah, that's right. I'll keep it going. So I had another big loss in my 20s, and I lived in a fishing village for a year or so, a very remote place in the Dominican Republic. And it was, I told everybody, I was like, I'm just going to go hang out in this place. But really, I think it was pretty broken and beaten up after, losing it so many times. I was pretty discouraged. But this was like a life-changing experience. Maybe 8 years or so ago, I got a call because I still had a very good reputation. I think integrity, reputation are things that you don't want to sacrifice. Maybe we make mistakes financially, but never reputationally or from an integrity perspective.
That's a great. So I'm going to stop right. Was a great quote, really. Well, I mean, because I think that's a great lesson for anybody because you're always going to go through tough times when you're starting a business. It's never easy, and to not sacrifice anything from an integrity standpoint, I think is so important. And that's a great lesson for everybody. So just keep going. Yeah. Just wanted to highlight that.
I'm concerned I may have peaked in this conversation. Maybe I should drop the mic and keep going.
I think you were just getting started.
Okay. You interrupt me as often as you want. Otherwise, I fear this becomes a monologue of okay, fine.
Yeah, keep going.
So I got a call to raise to put together a big apartment building deal in Miami, and the other thing I do. So if I was going to say, it's important to protect your integrity because that's like a pencil eraser, right? Like those don't. That's hard to grow back. The other thing I do is I tend to say yes to things that are that may be considered impossible or extremely difficult, but I think I got a chance at doing it. So things like take a microcap company public on the NASDAQ that's in the commercial real estate technology finance space when like commercial real estate
that we're saving to the end.
Yeah, no, I would never. Okay, yeah. Well, sorry, I chronological. So I said I would put together this big deal in Miami. I did it. I came back to Miami. I love Miami. I love South Florida.
So when you say put together a deal, is that the financing? Is
everything?
That
so I got
development.
I got a call and it was like, hey, we're trying to take down this land. Can you help us take down the land, structure the deal, plan it? It's condos. Should it be apartments? Get all the debt, all the equity, just do everything. We need like 50 million. And I was like, yeah, totally. Got it. Just make me a partner,
And these were people that you had done business with before?
No, it was through somebody that I'd done business with before.
Interesting.
Reputation.
Wow. Yeah, great.
Which carried for many, many years.
So you came in and you did that deal?
I did that deal.
How'd that work out?
Well, so that deal got done. I think it's one of the most beautiful, I think it was a very, I think we saw something early in the market and we capitalized on it really well. We built an apartment building on 27th and Dixie in Coconut Grove, right at the Metro Rail station where the underline is coming in. Wonderful project. Most of the partners were wonderful. One of them is, we're working things out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. But it's about dealing with people with integrity. So
But the project was a success.
Huge success.
Yeah.
Fantastic project.
Right.
And so that was actually when I was putting together the money for that project. It was so painful. So I had done putting together money as a intermediary. I've done it as a lender, because I was a lender in the last cycle. I've advised, but I'd never done it at that scale as a GP, like as a general partner. And it was brutal. It took like a couple of years to put all of it together. And so when I was putting it together, I was like, well, there's got to be a better way. And that was where I came up with the idea for this company that we have now, which is a marketplace for commercial mortgages, where the aim is to get every bank and credit union and real institutional and middle market lender in the country on our platform with their credit boxes set up, and to make a liquid market for multifamily commercial and SBA loans. It wasn't that grandiose when I thought of it. I was like, wow, let's just like get everybody in one place and make it easy to, edit an OM and take it to market. But, it evolved.
So it really came out of that when you say, you were trying to solve a problem, right? You're trying to solve a problem you experienced personally in doing this construction loan and deal. So what year is this that you get the idea to do this platform?
I think I get the idea in the end of 2018 and I launch it in the middle of 2019. So she's pretty new.
Wow.
Yeah. And I, when choosing the name, which is Janover, which you would say.
How'd you come up with that?
I joke that there's lack of creativity and narcissism in it. And both of those things may be true.
It's a good name, though, I think.
There's generations behind that name. That's my name.
Yeah.
So the real thing was to create. There was a podcast episode I was listening to, I think, or maybe a book I read, or something in between. Yes. Actually, I was talking to the gentleman that's running the. There's somebody here that runs the cameras and the. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ryan.
Yes. So we were talking about podcast episodes. I think it was a podcast with Naval Ravikant and maybe Shane Parrish, or maybe it was with Tim Ferriss.
Okay.
And he was like, put your name on it, build the social, put social accountability there, put your ass on the line. You'll get the upside and the downside. And I really, really liked that. So I'm all in, and that's where the name came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if I screw this up, my name goes with it.
Well, it's a good thing your name's not Smith or Jones or something. Janover sounds, it's a good
Smith
name.
or Jones would be easy because there's only one Blake Janover here.
So you launch it, and tell us about, because I know when I heard about what you're doing and started looking into it, I was like, wow, how did he build this? And so I guess you had contacts in the development, because you're not a coder yourself, right? You understand, or are you?
Yeah. Okay. So I was
okay.
in the late 90s. My biggest joy was hacking.
Okay.
So I remember getting my first
computer. That might have had something to do with getting kicked out of school.
I don't know what you're talking about. I taught myself Visual Basic, and then I taught myself C++. I remember I had this big Borderland C++ book. It was this big. I was barely 12 or 13 years old, and I was writing computer programs and causing some trouble, but having a lot of fun. And when I moved down to Florida, I lost focus on that. I started focusing on other things. This is around the time that a boy, starts to, okay.
Got it.
So unfortunately I left that behind. You
had a background in it. You had
it was there. So what I did was actually, I remember I got a phone call many, many years ago from a friend of mine, Brad Williamson, who's at Berkadia now. And he was like, hey, multifamily is hot again. You should check it out. And, I went online to do research about multifamily financing, and there were so few sources out there with really good organized data. So I went and I bought a website, multifamily.loans. and I just put it all in one place myself. I probably did it in a few days, and we ranked number one on Google pretty quickly. That was even before I started this company. I just put an informational website out there to be useful, and that ended up being the backbone of the acquisition strategy. Where now, we get. I think I'm limited on what I can say.
You're publicly traded.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, but we have a very impressive SEO machine.
Do we have to do like a disclaimer?
I don't know.
No forward-looking statements. And
I don't know.
All that nonsense?
I'm just going to try not to provide any forward-looking statements. That's a good question. I'm going to ask about that next time.
Yeah, I know, and I respect that. And so we certainly don't want to get you in trouble with
That's it's too soon. Right. I want to wait a few years.
So, but in talking, without disclosing anything, obviously that's non-public information about your company. So tell us, so you launch, and then you can certainly talk about how that evolved.
I'll talk about everything.
Yeah,
man. Okay. You tell me what you want to know how it evolved.
Yeah.
So we launched in the middle of 2019. And it was like, hey, we're building a marketplace for multifamily and commercial loans. We launched some more websites using the same strategy. So now we have websites like commercial real estate.loans, SBA 7A.loans, CMBS.loans. And the idea was like, let's just build these web properties that are super, super useful, just well-organized, unique, helpful data that take complicated things, make them simple, useful for people. And make them responsive and fast. And people were like, wow, what's your SEO strategy? How did you hack it? And it was like, no, we're providing the most value that we can. And Google, like, their job is to deliver the most value that they can to their users. So like, Google's algorithms should continue to optimize to deliver our websites to people. So like, let Google do that job, because our websites are built for value first. So that was our strategy there, and it's worked well up until now, and it continues to. And on the technology side, it was so there's 10,000 banks and credit unions, and they have hundreds of thousands of bankers that work at them. You can have two guys at the same bank, and they might not know what the other one does. Not your bank, but other banks. And the credit box could be it could be vague. It could change. Okay, we're full on industrial. We don't want to do more industrial. Give us some restaurants. We've done enough. We're full on our construction. We want to do more perm, or we've got enough in this zip code. We got to get more in that zip code. So how do we productize that? And that's been the thing that we've been working on and optimizing on for a long time. And I think we've finally gotten to a place where it's easy enough. And not overly complex, but tells enough of the story where we're able to capture what the banker works on, what his strike zone is, and overlay that with data that we're collecting on every property or every commercial property in the United States on a regular basis. So we're able to match what's happening in a local market through public record, along with first-party data about what a bank wants and what their behaviors are. So we can see what banks are moving into what market, from an underlying data perspective, but we could also see it from, what the banker says he wants to be or she wants to be working on. And it's just been an evolution of that. A couple things I changed along the way were we never raised equity before. It was always like debt and operational leverage. So I was like, okay, we're going to raise equity, and we're not going to use debt, and we're not going to over-lever operationally. After you fail enough times, you try something new. What do they say? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I went back to school. I must have slipped in somehow, but Harvard Business School let me into their OPM program, which I graduate this November, which it was a pretty tough but exciting experience and program.
Oh, cool. Congratulations on that. That's a big deal.
Thank you. I'll be HBS alumni, a little late to the party. I'm 40. Maybe I should have gone after it when I was a little younger. Look, I think I just, at this point, it's looking at things from first principles every day, having no sunk cost fallacy about anything. And when I say looking at everything, I mean at the business and at myself, right? So just kind of starting from scratch each day and not being married to anything other than getting better as a business and as a person.
That's great advice as well. I mean, so talk about the decision though, because it's a big decision you didn't just raise equity. I mean, you went public, right? So there's a difference. You know, you didn't do it friends and family. You went and you listed your company. So
I did.
How did you make that decision?
You know, so there's a few. Look, there was a lot of decision trees and, you know, and like strategy sessions and thinking, and there was a couple of years of work behind it. But I think like from a fundamental level, when if you ask somebody what their hobbies are, maybe it's, you know, I like to, I don't know, we're in Florida, I like to go shooting, or, you know, well, people have hobbies. My hobby, my house is littered with printed, no disrespect to trees, but printed S1s and 10Ks and Qs. And, you know, my favorite books, not my favorite, but like books I love are books about capital allocation, like The Outsiders, and how CEOs of public companies, you know, deploy capital to create, you know, more effectively to create a competitive edge. This is something that I've been quite infatuated with. And I think the overlay of my really deep interest in being able to build a long-lasting enterprise with the current market environment is what it is. So today's environment is interesting. So I think there's a very exciting opportunity. Let me choose my words carefully. To be very strategic with the currency that is now my company's stock and our capital in a world where I think banks, lenders, commercial real estate technology companies, prop tech companies, fintech companies have taken a real hit. So there's VC funded companies that are out there that are you know, maybe growing well, maybe great businesses, but they're not growing fast enough to get their next VC round.
Not close enough to making money.
Or they're not close enough to making money. It could be VCs are less interested in how close they are to making money to how fast revenue is growing. But there's that element too. I think there's an opportunity to hire stars and make some very strategic, we'll call it partnerships, in a market that's under duress in many pockets, with us being in a position of strength, right? We've got a ticker symbol. We're on the NASDAQ. We are real. Our stock is liquid, and we've got a couple shekels in the bank.
So I'm going to throw something at you now that, you know, so the Knowledge Project is one of the podcasts I love listening to as well.
Shane's great. I met him a couple months ago. We've exchanged.
He's a big
emails.
Fan of the podcast, by the way.
Is he really?
He's listening.
Yeah. Oh no. Hey Shane.
So anyway, I was listening. So George Stock Jr. is a recent podcast I listened to on the Knowledge Project, which I would recommend. But he talks about the difference between, and George Stock wrote a book called Competing Against Time, which is the only book that Tim Cook has recommended to all of his Apple management team.
Got it.
And it was written like in the 90s. I mean, so it's not like rocket science. It's just, it's kind of timeless wisdom, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so this guy, he talks about the difference between publicly traded and family-owned companies. And he said, and this is just something for you to think about and our listeners too, but that the difference is that publicly traded companies will go make more money in good times and they'll lose more money in bad times than family companies. And that if you look at the overarching trend through a couple business cycles, that the family-owned companies, they take less risk because they're not as incented, you know, quarter to quarter by results, right? They're longer-term thinkers.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I even think about it with our bank, you know, because, you know, I'm an owner, but I'm managing the company and I'm like looking why aren't we number one? You know, and you know, because the guy who's number one usually is probably taking more risk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one way you get to be number one, and you got to be doing something a little bit different, and usually it's taking a little more risk. So, how do you think about that as you go forward?
Thank you for the question and the content, and the story there. So, I think we're reporting quarterly, but building for the long term. when I think about things like this. So there's a couple elements that I didn't discuss. Let's surface them. So one thing is, when you're building for the long term and not for the quarter, like you have to acknowledge the quarter, right? You don't want to skirt responsibility as a manager. But when you're building for the long term, shareholder and customer interests are aligned. And I think it's like a Jeff Bezos has like a version of that quote. And that's something that I really believe. So when we went public, one of the primary reasons I was willing to do it was that I still have, I'm so committed. I own almost 60% of the company's common stock. So I can ensure that it's run for the long term with long-term shareholder interests at mind. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have done it. And I protected my equity interest in the company for that reason. This is the long-term mechanism for my family. And for my employees and for our shareholders, hopefully to create that long-term wealth. I think that risk is kind of an inherent part. So for us, it's how do we build and grow responsibly and sustainably. When I think about those number one companies like Berkshire and stuff like that, they all took huge risks, right? It was concentrated bets, but measured and thoughtful. So this is something I think about every day. The fundamental piece though is aligned with that of a family business that's thinking for the very, very long term, but being opportunistic and aggressive. When we should be.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. And I think also the way you structured it protects that interest to some extent. I think it's not as if you have that pressure that, hey, if this quarter's not good, that's a problem for me as a manager, right?
The pressure's there. We're public. The pressure's there.
It's always there, right? It's there even if you were private. No matter what, we all want to do well, right? Everybody looks at our numbers and we all see how we do. And in the end of the day, we all want to perform well. So what are you thinking about for the future? As much as you can say about the future.
For our company?
Yes.
We want to build the most comprehensive platform for commercial real estate finance and beyond. There's 33 million small businesses in America that, many of which are underserved. There's a huge opportunity to tech enable entire ecosystems that are currently kind of stuck in the 90s or the early 2000s. One of the most exciting things that I think kind of changes everything is generative AI. And if you're able to harness it and use it practically, I think we've done that better than anybody that I've seen in any operating business so far.
I think your stock just doubled. That's all you have to say.
It's not.
Maybe tripled.
Look, I believe, we're using it in, I will check with my lawyer on this.
No, you're just talking about generative. Everybody talks about generative AI.
Well, look, we just did a press release on it, and the facts are that we have generative AI that's borrower facing and lender facing, that's having long, high EQ, complex interactions that feel very human, but are more effective than people in some cases. And for us, it's kind of along the arc that we followed, where it's how do we build a digital first business where technology enhances the customer journey, but with a human touch. And I'm very excited to see where this goes and how this scales. And candidly, I'm a little scared too. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, this thing could replace me.
It's not going to own your company though. So it might be working away, but
there is a Skynet element that I think may be underappreciated, but I know not. But we aim to continue to be on the cutting edge of to the extent that it's useful to our customers and to our customers on both sides of our marketplace. So I think about, there's this framework called the value stick, where, at the top, it's, how much a customer is willing to pay. At the bottom, it's how much, a supplier is willing to sell for. And then you've got your price. And I always think about, like, how do we provide a better service, a better experience, more delight, thereby either, improving customer stickiness, profitability, or whatever else. And I think generative AI is a really interesting mechanism to improve customer experiences across their whole journeys.
That's super interesting.
Are you just saying that?
No.
Okay.
No, it is.
Are you saying that because I'm on your
I'm
podcast?
thinking the same thing in our business. I mean, that applies, I think, across the board to every service business, for sure, that there's an opportunity there. So, great story. I mean, so is there anything that you didn't get a chance to say that you want to say before we go into the lightning round?
The lightning round. I'm excited about the lightning round. As indicated earlier, I'm woefully unprepared, but strategically so it feels authentic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to think a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But so don't ask me difficult questions. Is there anything else that I want to say? I think I think 2 years ago we spoke about what you're doing with Locality Bank, and it resonated with me deeply. I think there's such an exciting opportunity out there to bundle technology with human empathy and experience, and deliver the better service and experience across the entire banking ecosystem. I'm doing it. Our company is building it in commercial real estate, and I'm so glad that you're building it in banking.
Wow. Well, thank you for saying that. And, and we appreciate the fact that you have supported us and have an interest in what we're doing too. So with that, we're going right into the lightning round. So you already talked about Think and Grow Rich, but is that your favorite book, or is there another book that you would say favorite?
Do I have to choose one, or can I?
You can say as many as you want.
Fine. All right. So
I'm writing them down.
Science fiction, Dune. I think science fiction's underrated. It triggers parts of my brain that to think creatively in different ways. And I
have you read the whole thing
through and through multiple times?
Even the ones that were written by the son?
No.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. Sorry.
Blasphemy.
Sorry.
I think Capital Allocation is The Outsiders. One of the books that transformed me when I was ready to be transformed from like a personal development perspective was The Big Leap. One of my favorite books on business was The Innovator's Dilemma. Christensen's A God. What was that book by Jim Collins where he introduced
Good to Great? Or
Good to Great's amazing. He introduced the flywheel, level 5 leadership. I think the best book is whatever book you're excited to read at that time. I think books are just the most powerful mechanism for personal and business development.
And are there books that you read over and over?
Sure. All of my favorite books I read over and over. I will reread a book that I love instead of delving into something new. Part of it's just I learn something new every time. And The Old Man and the Sea I've probably read more than any other book.
Wow.
The struggle of the old man against the odds in the sea with the sun beating down on him and fighting and then winning and losing. Very powerful storytelling. I'm who wrote that? He's so good. Hemingway, just simple guy. I like simple language, and the way he could take simple language and tell a story, I just find to be, fascinating.
Okay, this is not going to be a lightning round if you keep answering this long.
I asked for permission first.
I know you. Yeah. All right, so song. Favorite song from youth that inspires you?
Favorite song from youth
that
inspires me.
Like you got to get fired up about something. You're in your car. You're going to a meeting with the.
I'm embarrassed to say, but it would certainly be some kind of Lil Wayne or Drake anthem if I need to get fired up.
Okay.
It might be "We Made It" by Drake.
Okay. "We Made It" by Drake.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
Okay. I'm writing that one down. I'm
Don't.
looking that up. I'm Googling that later. What's the best advice you could give to entrepreneurs that are listening or would-be entrepreneurs?
I think the most so I think curiosity and resilience are the most undervalued traits. I think if you're curious and wanting to learn and you're willing to suffer and keep going, then you're going to get a good outcome.
Excellent. This is just a one-word answer.
No, I can't do it.
It's either that I think it's a positive or I think it's a negative. And you can't go. You can't
I can only say positive or negative.
AI.
Positive.
Awesome. Most people, even though I say that, they keep going about AI. But thank you.
I'll follow rules.
You already did. You went off.
You give me rules. I'll follow them.
I don't believe that.
Yes. Thank you.
You've already violated all of them. What's something you're grateful for today?
Oh man, I'm grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful that you invited me. I feel honored and, a little insecure. I think you're a very accomplished man, and I think what you've done with Locality is amazing. And this is plenty for me to be grateful for.
Wow, that's making me very humble. Thank you. What's a travel destination that's on that you haven't been yet?
Bali.
Bali, I love it.
Yeah, or any island that's remote with sand and like no activities, just sand.
Yeah, well, you hung out in a fishing village for
that's my vibe,
time.
Man.
Maybe is that the end game?
My wife wouldn't have it so.
Okay,
but otherwise, yes.
Who is someone living or dead that you would have dinner with if you could?
That's a lot of people. I think right now it would be my great great grandfather. Yeah, he interesting guy, came on foot to Ottoman Empire, pre-British Mandate Palestine, and had this like very amazing accomplished life, and actually struggled versus what I've been through, which is nonsense compared to like being a farmer through like years of drought. And I would love to get to know this guy.
So you've done some genealogy and tracked.
It's a thing I've done the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I'm very into it right now.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It must make you feel good to find out about, because you're like thinking, oh, that's what I got in my veins.
Yes.
Some of that dude.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
I was in Israel a month ago or a few weeks ago, and I went to a vintage bookstore, and they found books with like chapters from they're dedicated to him, and like pictures of our family history there. And it's just, it's inspiring.
That's awesome.
We love stories. We're Sapiens. That's a good book.
Yeah, it is a good book.
The Power of Storytelling.
Favorite movie?
There Will Be Blood. But I can give a much more comprehensive answer than that. There Will Be Blood is the best movie ever.
Really? Okay, I've never heard of it.
Daniel Day-Lewis is the best actor of our generation. Okay. This is what it is. And then there's like a lot of great movies, that are adjacent. The Usual Suspects, Pulp Fiction, things like this. But There Will Be Blood. I could watch that over and over again.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm going to expect your answers to all these lightning round questions separately.
We'll do that off camera.
Send me a report.
Yep. Favorite restaurant?
Quinto Neal in Mexico City.
How about locally? I'm not going to Mexico City anytime soon.
Favorite restaurant locally is, I haven't been there in years, but Macchialina is pretty good in South Beach.
Macchialina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice, like authentic, like home cooked Italian meal.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How about what do you do for fun?
Time with my children and my wife. Play tennis poorly. Travel. Read.
That's great. And what is a fear that you've overcome?
Look, I think a fear that, or like an insecurity, I'll call it, that I overcome all the time is probably imposter syndrome. I revisit it, often. Oh, I don't know enough. I'm not, I'm faking it. I didn't graduate college. I didn't, I don't have this or I don't have that. That's something I wrestle with, I overcome, and then I fight it, and then I wrestle with it again. So I'm like, oh, I'm on the NASDAQ, but our market cap's low. So, imposter. So yeah, I think I'm always kind of comparing myself to like the next best thing. And that creates this kind of insecurity and fear that I have to like regularly, okay, I've got the book answer.
Okay.
This is it. This is the one.
Yeah. Pen is ready.
Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way.
Oh,
that's the one. That's the most important one of all the books for me.
Yeah, I love that book too. I also love The Daily Stoic.
I have it next to my bed, and I do that sometimes too.
Yeah. I read that every morning.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you?
You can look me up on LinkedIn. It's Blake Janover, Janover.
Get your nice NASDAQ photo.
I got that. Yeah, I've got the Times Square photo. That's very cool. Don't email me. I have too many emails. Yeah. LinkedIn will be. I think LinkedIn is just fine. Yeah.
All right.
You come to our website, janover.co. You could talk with some of our AI. You can apply for financing.
If you want to borrow money, or if you're a bank, you want to lend money.
Yeah.
Janover.co is the place to go. We're on there.
Whoa.
We signed up.
Janover.co is the place to go. I think we've got something.
That.
Yeah. Is there royalties involved? Do I have to pay you a VIG?
Yes.
You're a banker.
Yes.
You get okay. Yeah.
Blake, thank you.
The pleasure's mine.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Locality's Making Bank podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to catch the latest episodes, and visit localitybank.com today to learn more about all the benefits of banking local.